Welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Tuesday, the 29th of August. Good to have you aboard. Presented as always by our title sponsor, Anidjar and Levine, Accident Attorneys. 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. Today's a big day. Is today a big news day? I don't know. By the time you're listening to today's episode of ZASLOW Show 2.0, you may have gotten the big news already, because today is Cut Down Day. That's right. And in addition to names that are going to be out there that maybe you didn't think were going to be out there, Jonathan Taylor is at the center of everybody's attention and focus. Can the Dolphins pull off a trade for arguably the best power running back in the National Football League? I don't know. Jim Irsay's kind of a kook, so we'll see what comes about today. So, like I said, today could be a big news day. We'll have to wait and see. We're going to talk plenty about that. It's a Tuesday, which means we got Twitter Jam. Twitter Jam, you could guess what it's going to be on. I just gave it away there. Also, we're going to talk to SI senior NFL writer Connor Orr is going to join us. We'll do some NFL with him. He actually did. He didn't simulate. He he goes over the schedule for every team in the National Football League and does, that's a win, that's a win, that's a loss, that's a win, that's a loss. He does it for every team, so he gives you the record for every team in the National Football League coming up, his predictions, and gives you the whole schedule. Win, loss, that whole deal. So we'll go on with that with him. Connor Orr will join us coming up on the program. And yeah, so we got fun stuff going on today. I do want to start here. I'll start here with a couple things before we get to the Dolphins stuff. Number one, yesterday, I watched the movie. I'm with my son in the afternoon. My older son, he went to high school. High school, man. My older son is in high school now. Today was his first day of high school. So yesterday, his last day before the school year starts, he's been wanting to watch Interstellar. He's on a Christopher Nolan kick right now, because we saw Oppenheimer a few weeks ago, the four of us. ZASLOW family outing when we were in Tennessee. We went to go see Oppenheimer on a rainy day. So my older son is on a Christopher Nolan kick right now. We watched Inception like a week or two ago. He liked it. And he's been wanting to see Interstellar. So, yeah, Dad, do you want to watch Interstellar? Yes, I do, son. So we watched Interstellar yesterday. And I really liked that movie. But I will so yesterday was the third time that I've seen Interstellar. And I think I enjoyed it the most yesterday. My third watch, I enjoyed it the most because I really feel now it's a difficult movie to understand at first. And I really feel now I got a really good grasp. I have a really good understanding of not what the movie's about. It's easy to understand what the movie's about. But to understand everything that takes place in the movie, that could take a couple watches. That could take some questions, I would tell you. So for the third time seeing it, I feel like I understand everything really well at this point. And I definitely understand, as far as, look, if you've seen Interstellar, there are parts that are easy to understand, and there are parts that are a lot more difficult, especially when, he's behind the bookshelf. That's a pretty heavy spoiler right there. I apologize for that. But especially when he's behind the bookshelf with the fifth dimensional beings. Although, forget about a spoiler. Interstellar's been out for 10 years now. Fuck it, whatever. So I feel like at that point, yesterday's watching, I got a really good grasp. So I sent out a tweet yesterday. Just watched Interstellar for the third time. My son's first time. Movie is so damn good. And it really is. It is so damn good. And I enjoyed it the most upon the third viewing yesterday. Inception, outside the Batman movies. Inception had always been my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. It might be Interstellar now. It might be my favorite. And oh my God, the score, unbelievable in that movie. So my son enjoyed it. And look, at his age, 14 years old, I'm sitting there with him and I'm able to say, hey, every now and then, do you understand everything that's going on? This, that. And so he's got someone, while he's watching it for the first time, and especially at his age at 14, I'm there to kind of help clean up some of the confusion. So I'm pretty sure he understands everything watching it the first time as well. And like I got a message yesterday on Twitter, you don't understand Interstellar. I'm like, no, after seeing it 3 times, I think I understand it now. Which I do. I understand Interstellar now. But there are movies out there, so it got me thinking. I sent out a tweet this morning, all right? And the first tweet that I sent out was, what is a movie that everyone loves that you just don't understand? And that being like maybe like a movie like Interstellar. Everybody loves it, and you don't understand it. You know, it's a very tough movie to understand. But then I started getting responses. Movies like Step Brothers, Dumb and Dumber, The Big Lebowski. I'm like, how the fuck don't you understand The Big Lebowski? You don't understand Dumb and Dumber? It's not exactly a brain teaser. And then I think some people were taking the wording, what is a movie everyone loves, you know, like The Big Lebowski, that you just don't understand, meaning not that you don't understand the plot, but I think you thought that I'm saying you don't understand why people love it. So I changed the wording of the tweet to, what is a movie you did not understand? Just no idea what it was about. That's clear, right? Yeah. So I started to get some responses, and I wanted to go over some of these. So you can always hit me up at ZASLOW Show on Twitter, always on Instagram as well. I'm an influencer, but I love hearing from you guys at ZASLOWJ. A lot of times you'll get in touch with me on Instagram where I'm an influencer, and then you become famous, you know, because I'm an influencer. Anyway, you can hit me up at ZASLOW Show. So what is a movie you just don't understand? You don't get it. And look, there are plenty of movies you have to watch a couple times. Like, I had to watch The Usual Suspects a couple times. I was really young the first time I saw it. I was like 15. I had to watch that a couple times, and then I could understand it. So that everybody has movies like that. But what is a movie you just don't understand? So I got some good replies here. Haley sends me a message here. Mother. Now, a few people sent me, this movie, Mother. That's the movie. It's a horror movie. That's the movie with Jennifer Lawrence, right? I've never seen it, so that's hard to understand, I guess. I don't know. C-Mac, he sent me Birdman, and then in parentheses put Michael Keaton. Yeah, I knew you're not talking about a movie about Chris Anderson. The movie Birdman. I never saw Birdman, and that was the movie where kind of like Michael Keaton got his second wind, right? He hadn't done anything in a really long time, and then he was in this movie Birdman. I think it was nominated for an Academy Award. Did it win Best Picture? Maybe. So see, I never seen Birdman. Enrique, Parasite. Now, I believe that did win Best Picture. At the very least, it was nominated. I know it's a foreign film. There's subtitles. I never saw Parasite. JMP, Jeremy Marks Peltz chiming in. 2001. I assume he's 2001, A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick. 2001, tried multiple times, didn't get it. Ironically, I think it was one of the inspirations for Interstellar. Okay. How about one of the awesome things about the internet? Well, there's a few awesome things, but one of them is, not if you don't understand the movie, but maybe there's just a couple parts, like, what does this mean? You know, or something like when I'm watching Interstellar and I could tweet out, something like, how did Edmonds die, on his planet? Stuff like that. And you can get a synopsis, or if you don't understand the movie, ending of blank explained. So Christian here had to look up what mother meant after getting traumatized watching it. So again, this mother has a couple ZASLOW Show 2.0 listeners confused, and Christian had to look up what it meant. All right, maybe I got to see that. Mike in West Palm Beach, The Room. Now, The Room is with, what's her name? Brie Larson, right? Never seen it. I know what it is. All right, that's hard to understand. Okay. Ben, Tenet. Now, that feels like the universal answer, right? Tenet is a Christopher Nolan film. I'm not even going to tell my son to bother watching it. I have no idea. I'm a smart enough dude. Now, it doesn't mean I understand everything, but I have no fucking idea what Tenet was about, and I don't even want to look it up, because if I watch an entire movie 2.5 hours long, and I just have no idea what the movie's about, I don't even care to learn. It's okay if I didn't understand a couple things. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? But if I have no idea what was going on in Tenet, it is not worth me finding out. Ali also gave us Tenet. Danny also gave us Tenet. Yeah, Tenet feels like the universal answer. Elgin mentions Tenet. What about Adam? Adam says Total Recall. I wonder if he's doing the newer one with Colin Farrell or the original with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I didn't see the newer one with Colin Farrell. The original with Schwarzenegger, I mean, I saw when I was a kid. I feel like I understood it. Michael says Mama. Now, is he going with, like, does he mean Mother, the same one that a couple other people are? I don't know. Mike is saying this movie, Gummo. I don't know what that is, and he attached a trailer on YouTube to this movie, Gummo. I didn't watch it yet. Mike, I'll check it out when I'm done doing the show. My man George, Disco George, says Pulp Fiction. What? Pulp Fiction, my all-time favorite movie. I don't think it's very hard to understand at all. I mean, I watched it for the first time. I was like 14 years old. And then when you get to the end scene with, Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, it's like, oh, I see what's happening. You eventually get it. George, you don't understand Pulp Fiction? William didn't understand Idiocracy. That's what Luke Wilson never saw it. Carlos mentions a movie here I've never heard of. Unbearable Lightness of Being. He did not understand. Never even heard of it. Norman chimes in with Avatar. Avatar is like Dances with Wolves, right? And I'm saying right because, not that I've never seen it, but I don't get Avatar. And what I mean by I don't get Avatar, I watched like the first hour of it, however many years after it came out at home, and I shut it off. I couldn't get through it. I don't care about Avatar. It does nothing for me. Alfonso gives a movie called Blue Velvet. I think I've heard of it, but I don't know what that is. And my guy Michael Jason here says Jaws. There's no way he's telling the truth. What's not to understand by Jaws? So it had me thinking yesterday. I think it's a fun little... I like being able to get the listeners involved in the show, So I thought that was a fun way to get everybody involved in the show today. I understand Interstellar. My son understands it now because I was sitting right there. I was able to answer any questions he had. But I definitely did not understand everything the first viewing. But yesterday was the third time that I've seen it. So yeah, I understand it totally fine. But for me, if you ever say, what is a movie that you don't understand and you can't even fake it? I feel like the universal answer is Tenet. Who the fuck can understand what that movie is? I dare you to explain what that movie's about. You have no idea what Tenet is about. All right, so thanks everybody for participating there. You could always get at me at ZASLOW Show. You know what else you need to get at? Is making sure you got the right homeowner's insurance. If you're not covered, you are at serious risk. Especially, hey, on the west coast of Florida, you got that storm coming tonight. We'll get to what that means in a second. But you got to make sure that you're covered so you're not laying awake at night. You can't sleep because you're worried about what's going to happen to your home without homeowner's insurance. Maybe you have homeowner's insurance and you're not covered properly, or your rate sucks. You're paying too much money. That's why I sent you to Brunt Insurance and Financial Services. Brunt Insurance, 954-589-2204, or go to bruntinsurance.com. Top 5 in the country, #1 rated insurance agency in the state of Florida. And that's because wherever you're calling from, they have offices throughout the state. So you could be calling from up north in Pensacola all the way as far south as the Keys. Brunt Insurance is delivering you that comprehensive insurance tailored exactly to your needs. Greg Brunt and his staff at Brunt Insurance, they have the experience and the expertise. They know whatever area you're calling from, so they know exactly what type of coverage you need. Hey, they also offer extensive policies on motorhomes and trailers. Let their team help you learn more about all the policy options so you can make an informed decision. It's not going to keep you up at night. And you know what? I've been getting my homeowner's insurance from Brunt Insurance for about 10 years now, but also automobile insurance. You need motorcycle, you need boater's insurance. You're making the right call. 954-589-2204, bruntinsurance.com. Guys, I also want to make sure you get the best sleep possible. One of our great sponsors, been with us for about 4 or 5 months now, Sheets and Giggles. You know how the ZASLOWs are getting that great sleep. We wake up in the morning so refreshed because we're sleeping on Sheets and Giggles, naturally softer, cooler, the most breathable sheets you've ever slept on. My all-time favorite comforter. Oh my God, I sleep on a eucalyptus pillow. Have you ever slept on a eucalyptus mattress? Go to sheetsgiggles.com, search around, peruse around, and then you pick up yourself a comforter and some fitted sheets and some pillowcases. My man Colin, he's the founder and CEO of Sheets and Giggles. He figured out how to make sure we're getting the softest, best sheets out there, but also making sure it's super environmentally friendly. He cares about planet Earth. He wants us to be here on this planet. Speaking of Interstellar, he wants us to be here on this planet forever and making sure we get the best sleep possible. And that's courtesy of Sheets and Giggles. You're going to become one of over 100,000 Americans who are sleeping on Sheets and Giggles and never turns back. Use my promo code ZASLOW upon checkout. You'll get 20% off your first order. Sheets and Giggles, love having them on the show. SheetsGiggles.com. So, today is cut down day. By the time you're listening now, there's like an unofficial 4 p.m. deadline also for a Jonathan Taylor trade. So are the Dolphins going to land Jonathan Taylor? We know the Dolphins are involved. We keep hearing about a possible second team. Who is it? I don't know. Is today the day that the Dolphins pull the trigger on Jonathan Taylor? I don't think it's going to happen because the Dolphins are fiscally responsible. They're not going to give this monster deal to Jonathan Taylor. They're going to do it on their terms. So can they get him to accept it? Also, Jim Irsay, kind of a nut. What is he asking for? They already said they want at least a first-round pick. Are the Dolphins? They don't have a first-round pick for the next couple years. What are they going to give up? Can they get the Colts to agree in what's already a messy situation? And the Dolphins, when they place a value on a player, they don't budge. We want the player on our terms, not your terms, not your terms, our terms. So my best guess is that a deal doesn't get done. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong also because the Dolphins have not had a stud running back, a power running back, one of the best running backs in the entire league in 20 years. Since Ricky Williams, the Dolphins have not had that stud behind the quarterback that you say, give him the ball, he's going to get it done for you. And man, like if you're not old enough to remember what Ricky Williams was like, he was probably the most fun offensive player the Dolphins have ever had. Yes, I understand Tyreek Hill and what he's doing right now, but there's something about a bruising running back who will run you over. And that was Ricky Williams. Got the dreads flying all over the place. Love Ricky Williams. Jonathan Taylor is that kind of running back. So is today the day the Dolphins get it done? I don't know. I can't predict the future. But that's what's at stake here today. So, that's what we're keeping an eye on. And today, being a Tuesday, means let's get to this week's edition of Twitter Jam. So today's Twitter Jam is on, yes, you guessed it, Jonathan Taylor. First up here, this tweet is from a guy called Kendall Beck. He's the co-host of All About the Birds. That's a Philadelphia Eagles show. And he says here, according to Benjamin Albright, the Eagles have been sniffing around the Jonathan Taylor situation. It's unknown if Philadelphia has made an offer, but there's at least some level of interest. The Eagles and Dolphins have been the only reported teams interested in Taylor. The Colts set a deadline for a trade to be materialized and a new contract to be agreed upon by 4 p.m. today. All right, so that's from @KBeckEagles. This tweet here is from King of Finland. That's like Finns, like Dolphinland, all right? Settle in, everybody. Today is a big day. The Dolphins have to get rid of 21 more players to get their roster down to 53. Today is the last chance to trade for Jonathan Taylor. Both of these have deadlines at 4 p.m. East, so the next 8 hours or so, that's at the time of the tweet, are about to be action-packed. This tweet here is from Ian Rappaport @RapSheet from NFL Network. And this is from Good Morning Football this morning on NFL Network. Cutdown day is upon us with hundreds of moves to go, but all eyes are on Colts running back Jonathan Taylor. Here's Ian Rappaport.
Eyes are on Jonathan Taylor today, the Colts star running back who has been in the news for more than a month now. Of course, requested a trade, then received permission to seek a trade. I'm told there are at least 2 teams still interested with offers to the Indianapolis Colts. The Miami Dolphins is one of those teams. They have been long rumored to be a potential landing spot for Jonathan Taylor. time will tell if general manager Chris Ballard pulls the trigger on this trade. For me, just from what I know about the situation, hard to imagine Taylor returning to the Colts and playing for them, although I guess theoretically anything is possible. Either way, today should be the long-awaited conclusion of the Jonathan Taylor
All right,
saga.
so that's Ian Rappaport again. Now it's from early this morning. Great show, Good Morning Football. I watch those guys every morning on NFL Network as I get ready for today's edition of ZASLOW Show 2.0. And speaking of which, Good Morning Football tweets out at GMFB, should the Dolphins go all in for Jonathan Taylor? Well, here's Jason McCourty. He's one of the hosts of Good Morning Football. Looks at some of Mike McDaniel's previous rushing leaders.
And to your point, however many picks you're trading, whatever contract you're getting, I look at this Miami Dolphins team, and the key is Tua staying healthy. And beyond that, last year, Mike McDaniel was ranked 31st in rushing attempts. He wasn't even handing the ball off to know whether there was a strong running game with Mostert and Jeff Wilson. And then you go even further back, and you look at his time in San Francisco. He was the run game specialist. He was the offensive coordinator. And each year he was there was a different guy that led them in rushing. And then in 19 and 21, they ended up in a Super Bowl one year in their conference championship. And they had a ton of success with different guys running the ball. It didn't take just one guy to come in and carry the entire load for them. So I look at a Mike McDaniel-led offense. I think it's less about making sure a guy like Jonathan Taylor who's there, but don't get me wrong, Jonathan Taylor is an absolute stud, the type of superstar you would want on your team. If you can get him at the right price, okay, but when you say the words go all in, that to me is a little terrifying because I look at them, they went all in for Tyreek Hill. You have Jalen Waddle there. You have guys that Tua can spread the ball around and get the rock to and be able to have a good offense. Last year, they were one of the best offenses in the NFL with Tua in there at quarterback. So that's the only thing I'm looking at, and it's nothing against Jonathan Taylor. I think he's one of the best running backs.
All right, so there you go. That's Jason McCourty. Let's continue on here with Twitter Jam. This is from Dolphins Weekly. That's at Jason_Sarney. And he tweets out, yesterday morning, I said my percentage for Jonathan Taylor to Miami was 40%. After 24 hours, I moved it to 60%. If you see one more bunt or single today, the Dolphins are hitting a home run next. All right, he's very into it. Neil Driscoll. He's at Neil Driscoll. He co-hosts the Fin Too Deep podcast. And he says, happy National Jonathan Taylor Trade Day for those who celebrate. Do Irsay and Ballard take the highest offer at this point, or do they hold Taylor hostage? And finally, got one more for you here. This is from Stephen Holder, at Holder Steven. He's an NFL reporter, ESPN. He's based out of Indianapolis. Used to cover the Miami Heat, as a matter of fact. He tweets out, Jonathan Taylor update. Talks continue, and as expected, this will go down to the wire. One tidbit. I believe there to be a second team involved beyond the Dolphins, which would certainly change the dynamics. And that right there is another edition of Twitter Jam. Here's the thing, though, with the idea that there's another team involved. Normally we find out the other team. You want to be able to pit them against each other, right? Well, the fact that we don't have the name of the other team kind of feels like the Colts are trying to make the Dolphins believe there's another team so they can up the offer. I feel like if there were actually, and I know, maybe the Eagles are that team, but Stephen Holder's dialed in. He doesn't even know. So if we don't really know who that second team is, that's probably just a ploy by Irsay and Chris Ballard in Indianapolis. I don't know. We'll see. So today's a big day. Also, we're going to talk to Connor Orr, Sports Illustrated. We'll ask him about Jonathan Taylor, and we'll go over his predictions for this year as he essentially simulated the entire NFL schedule. And I can tell you right now, the Dolphins, he has Dolphins, an 8-win team. Does not have them winning the AFC East. Does not have them even making the playoffs. You're going to be stunned at who he has to win the division. So we'll get Connor on in a moment here. But I do want to mention, speaking of Sports Illustrated sent out this morning, I'll give you a little bit of wrestling here real quick. AEW, All Elite Wrestling, just had a major show this past weekend. AEW All In London, 81,000 people were there. It was a really good show and a really big deal for AEW and a really great thing for the pro wrestling world. And CM Punk, you never know what to believe when it comes to the dirt sheets and all the rumors and stuff. But apparently, the reports were for the last couple days that at this show, CM Punk had a backstage altercation with Jack Perry. But again, you don't know what to believe because the dirt sheets know all the clicks, the big headlines are CM Punk and CM Punk getting into trouble and backstage stuff. Well, Sports Illustrated reported this morning AEW has actually suspended, not storyline. This is not kayfabe. This is real. That AEW has in fact suspended CM Punk and Jack Perry. I mean, he's just been back for a couple months from the previous suspension. Continues to get into fights with dudes backstage. And once again, after a major show and a major win for AEW, CM Punk continues to make it all about himself and gets into a fight. So instead of everyone talking about how amazing All In was, we're talking about CM Punk getting into backstage altercations. What an asshole. Like, he can't just get along with people. Why can't he stay out of trouble? Like, what a dick. And you hear about all these things about how difficult he is to work with. Just such an asshole. Suspended again. And AEW has another pay-per-view this weekend, All Out. And it's in Chicago, where that's where Punk is from. That's a huge show for CM Punk, and now he just got himself suspended. And he's not even going to be there. I just wonder, look, CM Punk is so polarizing, and I do believe he brings eyeballs. But at some point, he's ruining morale. You can't continue to have everybody fighting with him. Eventually, if you're Tony Khan, you got to get rid of this guy. I mean, what an asshole this CM Punk is. Suspended again? Really? And making it about himself again. When all we should be talking about is what an awesome weekend of pro wrestling and what a big win for AEW. 81,000 people at Wembley Stadium in London. Anyway,